round 2 of the Goodwin e-racing series spring season. It's coming from Autopolis in Japan, and we are using GR1 cars for this particular event. So as per normal, we have our 1 lap shootout for qualifying. We have Manos on pole position in his Toyota. Dan is second in his Porsche 919. George third in a Toyota. Matt fourth in a Toyota. Richie fifth in another Toyota. Pickles sixth in a Porsche. Zoe seventh in a Toyota. Matt or Simo is eighth in a Porsche. Then we have Captain Slow in a Toyota. Then AK in a Porsche. Then Mike in another Porsche. Followed by Fee in another Porsche 919. Then Sean in another Porsche 919. And Cesar, who had a mistake, unfortunately, during his qualifying lap, qualified at the back there in 14th place. So let's get this race underway and we will see what goes on. There's a rolling start, as you can see, for our Group 1 cars. All of these pile into a nice tight corner. So we're off. Manos leading the way with Dan, George, Matt, Richie, Pickle, Zoe and Simo are the top 8. We'll just watch them around the first lap. So I think Pickles has just stuck ahead there of Richie going through T1. So Manos. So this will be quite an interesting race because these are Group 1 cars. Some of them, I think all of the cars in this particular race have got hybrid, but we've got two or three different types of hybrid being used here. We've got Manos in the Toyota, which is the slightly older version of an LMP1 car. So the hybrid will work slightly differently. We've got Dan behind in the Porsche 919, which is obviously a slightly more modern LMP1 car. And when it deploys its hybrid, it's actually 4-wheel drive. Autopolis is one of those tracks where it potentially could rain. So the normal GERC Goodwin e-racing club rules of having to use all 3 types of slick tyre don't apply on this track because it's one where it can rain. So we have a free tyre choice, so we can use soft, mediums or hards throughout the race. So talking of that, let's see what tyres people are on. So we've got Manos on medium, Dan on medium, George medium, Pickles medium, Matt medium, Richie medium, Zoe medium. Mike is the first one there running on soft, so in theory he should have the early tyre advantage over the front 7 there. Captain Slow on medium. Cez has already made his way up to 10th from 14th on the grid. He's on medium as well. Sean is on soft. AK on medium. Simo on medium. He's dropped back a little bit, unfortunately, by the looks of things. And Fee also Fee's actually on hards. So just going to go back to Sean for just a moment. So Sean is one of our regular members of the Goodwin e-racing club. This was Sean's first event using a steering wheel and pedals, so a real baptism of fire for Sean. And in fact, I think partway through the race, he actually switched back to using the control pad. But stick at it, Sean. I'm sure you'll make the wheel work for you. It's just a question of practice, and more practice. So you can see at the moment he's having a little bit of a battle with AK. So he's obviously still trying to get used to the wheel. So we've got yellow flags up ahead. Captain Slow looks like he's had a spin. What did he do? Just caught the curb and dinked the barrier. You can see from the schematic down in the bottom left-hand corner there, where it's flashing, we have weak damage turned on for the Goodwin E-Racing series, which basically means the damage will stay there for 30 seconds, then it will self-repair, but during that period it does affect the performance of the car. So we can see there, Captain Slow's dropped back down to 12th position. And he's just had another spin on the exit of T1. And to be joined by Simo by looks of things. So synchronized spinning. And then there's Fee coming through as well. So let's go back to the top and see what's going on. So we've got Manos leading thus far, only 2 laps done. Fastest lap of a 1:32.407. And down in second place. Just hanging on to Manos's coattails a little bit. George there in third. Matt running fourth, dropping back a little bit. So George is just coming onto the start-finish straight now. So probably 5 or 6 seconds there. Matt running fourth. Richie's now up to 5th. Cez has already made his way up to 6th, so great early recovery drive from Cez, as we would come to expect. He's probably, I don't think anybody would object to say that he's probably the quickest guy we've got within the Goodwin E-Racing Club. Certainly Cez, Manos, Dan, George and Richie are the quickest guys out there. Mike running 7th. You see his tyre wear is quite significantly higher than anybody else around him. You see, compared to Zoe there, who's on the mediums, Mike's tyre wear is quite a lot higher. You also see with Mike running the Porsche that he's already run out of hybrid partway around the lap. So has Zoe, to be fair. But the little red and green lights flashing left and right there underneath the fuel gauge tells you when the hybrid's deploying or when it's charging. So the other thing we'll have to watch out for is potential rain during the race. There's Pickles drop back to 9th in his pink pig Porsche. AK running 10th. Captain Slow 11th now. Sean dropped back to 12th, but like I say, it's the first time he's tried to use wheel and pedals. Simo 13 and Fee 14. So back to the top. Manos has now gone slightly quicker with his fastest lap on a 1:32.349. You see Manos round the hairpin. We'll see Dan. No, Dan's not in the background. So Dan and George are pretty close. So George in his Panasonic Toyota. And we've got Richie up to 4, Cez up to 5th, chasing Richie down. Mike into 6th, Zoe in 7th, Pickles in 8th, and something's happened to Matt. He's dropped all the way down to 9th, so obviously a problem within the last lap or so for Matt. He's dropped quite a way behind Pickles as well. Captain 10's got himself back up to 10th already. AK in his Golf Porsche running 11, Sean 12, Simo 13 and Fee in 14th. So Manos looks like he's in an absolute class of 1. So you can see from the track map in the top right hand corner there, the red dot or the red triangle there is Manos. If we drop back to second to Dan, you can see that Manos has got a bit of a lead, but he's got George right up his exhaust pipe. So we'll watch this for a couple of laps and see what develops, whether George can get past Dan, whether Dan's going to hold on to that second place. So there will be pit stops in this race. The question is when and how many, and the other big question is will it rain, which is a possibility here at Autopolis. So, jump on board with George and watch Dan. Oh, really close going on to the start finish straight here. Will he pick up enough of a slipstream to be able to get him at turn 1? Yep, there he goes. You see Dan following George there through T1. So will Dan, looking up the inside, did he make it? Yes, he did. So Dan back up to second. So all the time that Dan and George are fighting, it's allowing Manos to pull away at the front and allowing Sez and Richie to close in from behind. Just see, so as they go through that left-hander, you'll see where Sez is, and they're just coming up to it, so they're not that far off. So these top 5 are really now starting to pull away from everybody else. So Richie there, you can just see him lurking behind Sez, so Sez has got past him as well. So Toyota does seem to be the quicker car. Around here it's only really Dan with the Porsche that's got in and amongst it. So we've got Manos in the Toyota, Dan in the Porsche, George in the Toyota, Sez in the Toyota, Richie in the Toyota, Mike in the Porsche, having a great race here by looks of things with Zoe. These two look like they're having a good... Oh, Zoe's just nipped in front. So yeah, Mike's tyres are absolutely shot. So into the pits he comes and come off of those soft tyres. So where are we? 7 laps into the race, 11.5 minutes. So the soft tyres on these GR1s are not lasting particularly long at all. So he's gone back out on. And he's gone back out on another set of softs, but only 3/4 of a tank of fuel. So Mike has dropped back down to 10th. So that means Captain Slow has jumped in front of him. Matt and Pickles. So jump on board with Pickles and see what it's like through a Porsche 919. So you see there on the left hand side at the bottom of the screen there, 12.5 minutes in, because his front tyres are about half worn on that left front tyre. So hopefully he'll be able to get to about 20-25 minutes before potentially changing. You see his fastest lap of the race thus far was on lap 2 at 1:35.799. So Pickles chasing Zoe down here, lap 9. So we'll see how long these tyres last. Let's just pop in board with Zoe and see how she's doing. So she's on the medium tyres. The tyres look a lot healthier than they do on the Porsche. So a lot less wear on the Toyota. So I think Zoe here is in the slightly later Toyota, the TS050, where Manos, George, Says, Richie and Matt are in the, and I think Captain Slow as well, are in the slightly earlier version, the TS030, which was Toyota's first foray into the LMP1 category. And then later they used the 050, which was an absolute phenomenal car in real life. Remember seeing it at Le Mans in 2019 at the Porsche curves, and I've never seen a car go through Porsche curves like that Toyota TS050 did. It was incredible. So Zoe there just put a lap on Sean, who's obviously still getting used to his wheel. He may have changed to the back to the pad by this point. So, vertical learning curve there for Sean, using the wheel. So there we are on board with Richie. So George in 4, and Says has already jumped up to 3rd. So Says is having a fantastic drive so far. 15 minutes in, 10 laps in. He had a poor qualifying, but he's already got himself up to in 3rd. So Says now will be trying to chase down Dan and Manos to see if he can get up to 2nd or even 1st. So let's just have a look at the gap. So Says is just coming onto the start finish straight now, and Dan's just gone over the start finish line. So there we are. There's a good shot. So you've got Dan, Says, George and Richie there all in the same shot. Dan's just coming up to lap somebody. Who's that? He's just coming up to lap Simo. So those 4 are starting to concertina up. So that might turn into that. We'll keep our eyes on that. But Manos is well out in front, so he's just going through that fast right-hander, and Dan is still coming through that left-hander onto like what you could almost call a sort of a back straight. So Manos has got a fairly decent lead. Then goes down through the tight left-hand hairpin, just as Manos disappears around the right-hander at the top of the straight. So Manos has got a decent lead here after 16 minutes. Says just coming up to lap Simo. I'm sure Simo will do what he does and move out the way and let Says go. Yep, there we are. Nicely done, Simo. Oh, and then Says chucks it off the road, but fortunately not too far. So George is up behind Simo now. So Simo will do the same to George as he's just done to Says. Yep, there you go. Moves aside slightly, lets him go. Great driving there, Simo. So Richie in 5th, holding kind of a watching brief. Richie tends to be really good on tyres and tends to be pretty economical on fuel as well. So you can see he's got a decent lead. There's no one behind him. So yeah, so those top 5 have well and truly broken away there from Matt, who's running in 6th. Yeah, they've got quite a decent lead. So Matt's just coming over the start finish straight, and there's Richie going through the tight right hand hairpin. So they've probably got already 25 second lead. So Matt there in 6, Zoe 7, and then Pickles in 8. Pickles' front tyres are looking very sorry for themselves. So he won't be long before he needs to pit. Mike's back out on a second set of softs. He already made the earlier pit stop. So again, front tyres. These front tyres on these Porsche, they seem to... Let's go and have a look at Dan, because he's in a Porsche. So yeah, but he's on medium. So again, yeah, his front tyres are wearing quite significantly more than the rear tyres. Whereas you look at the Toyotas, yeah, it's a bit more front tyre wear, but nothing like the Porsche. So yeah, again, Cez is in the Toyota, so pretty even tyre wear. George in the Toyota, likewise with Cez and Manos, consistent on the tyres, as is Richie and Matt. And these have all got, yeah, Zoe's in the slightly later Toyota, so yeah, slightly better on rear tyre wear, but about the same on front, but it seems to be using more fuel. If we look at what Matt's used, he's used about half a tank. Zoe's already used 3/4 of a tank of fuel in that Toyota. So the later spec Toyota seems to be a bit thirstier on fuel than the earlier spec. Pickles there, running in 8th in the Porsche. As we've already said, his front tyre wear is really heavy. Mike, again, he's already almost gone through another set of softs, but he's only used 1/4 of a tank of fuel. So if Mike keeps this strategy up, he could do 4 stops, 4 stints on a tank, but with 4 sets of soft tyres. Captain Slow there, running 10th. Again, tyre wear, he's probably slightly better on the front tyres, but again, running in the older spec Toyota. Again, half a tank of fuel. So the old spec Toyota seems to be really good on tyres and really good on fuel. AK looks like he's just been coming up to the lap here with Dan. Tyre wear, well done AK, he's just moved aside, let Dan go. That's great driving there. So Simo running 12. Again, Simo is an Air Cadet leader, hence the Royal Air Force livery on his car. He tends to run that, and unfortunately for Simo, he's a Nottingham Forest fan, but there we are, can't have it always. Although having said that, they are doing rather well this year so far. We have Fee running 13, and Sean has by this point switched back to the pad after struggling with the wheel. Just managed to get out of the way there of Manos, who's still leading. So Sean is running 14th at the moment, but he's now back on his pad, so he'll probably get a little bit quicker as the race progresses. So as I say, Manos basically in a class of 1 heading down to turn 1, and then Dan is halfway down, start finish straight. So Fee's just moving out of the way. So Dan's gone past, Cez has gone past, George has gone past, and Richie as well. So there's Richie, and then Matt. So the race is kind of settling down now into a bit of a pattern. So we've got the top 5 broken away there from Matt, who's, let's see how far. So he's steadily pulling away from Zoe in 7th. So Zoe runs the Goodwin e-racing club, and runs it very, very well. Organises all the races, hosts the lobbies, and does all the points and everything. So yeah, thank you Zoe for doing what you do, much appreciated. Pickles and Mike. So Pickles looks like he's made a pit stop there. He's running on a brand new set of medium tyres, and and Mike is also running on a brand new set of mediums, so this should be quite good. Let's have a watch and see what these two get up to. So Pickles just jumped away at turn 1. So this is probably, looking at the track map in the top right hand corner, this is probably the closest battle on track at this moment in time. So both of these guys are in the Porsche 919 LMP1 hybrid car, both on medium tyres. Pickles, half tank of fuel, and Mike probably about a third of a tank of fuel. So theoretically, Mike should be slightly quicker because he's got less fuel. He's having a challenge, a little bit of a touch there. Mike backed out of it. So Manos has just dived into the pits. Let's see what he does. So there we are, his IMSA liveried Toyota TS030. The livery they ran, I think, during the, I'm going to say late, and he's picked up a 3-second penalty. So he's obviously gone over the white line there, probably coming into the pits because it's a bit of a tricky pit entry. I would say they ran this livery in IMSA probably late 80s, early 90s. Quite a distinctive livery. So Manos there dropped down to 4th after that stop. So we're going to keep an eye out and we'll see if Says Dan. It looks like what's happened here. Manos is right up behind Dan now. In fact, she's just going past him. So, yeah, Dan looks like he's got some damage on his car. So let's have a look. And, here we are. Dan looks like he's had a spin. Yeah, just lost it out the tight right-hand hairpin and biffed the wall. Damaged the front of the car. So Richie there goes through into 2nd, and then obviously Manos come up behind him, and there we go, takes 3rd. So Dan trying to get back down the inside. We do it. So Dan's tyres are pretty well worn. Manos there, obviously first of the leaders, top, just serving his 3-second penalty there for the pit lane issue. So that drops him back to 4th, but I'm sure he won't be 4th for long because Says, Richie and Dan have all got to pit. George will have pitted as well, so there we are, brand new. George has gone on to softs with a full tank of fuel, so this will be a change of tactic. In fact, Manos has gone soft but not fueled up. So Says has gone into the pits now, running on mediums, got 28 litres of fuel left in his tank, so about 25 minutes. So possibly could have stretched it another couple of laps and got to the half-hour mark and just done it on the one stop. But he's obviously chosen to cover off Manos, who stopped on the previous lap. But unlike Manos, Says has gone out with almost a full tank of fuel, but on the medium tyres instead of soft. So Dan's gone round for another lap. So Dan's obviously, I'm guessing that Dan is probably trying to stretch it to see if he can get to that half-hour mark. So we're at 27.5 minutes now, and the lap is about 1.5 minutes. So he could do. He could stretch it, but his front tyres, he may be losing more time than he's going to gain by just doing the one stop. So we'll have to see how that pans out. So Manos, obviously, he had lost 3 seconds on his previous lap. He's already got caught and passed Dan and pulled away by a fair old chunk. So there's, in fact, Manos isn't far off of retaking that lead. So Manos is virtually, well, he is a pit stop ahead of both Richie and Dan. Cesar's obviously stopped. So so really it's going to be Manos running first, Cez probably second, and that's Richie's into the pits now. So I suspect, and then we've got George in there as well. So I think, and Dan has come into the pits as well. So Richie's tyres are changed. I suspect probably for another set of mediums, probably a full tank of fuel. Oh no, not quite a full tank of fuel. Off he goes. See what Dan's doing. Yeah, full tank of fuel. Porsche's a little bit thirstier than the Toyota on fuel. Dan out on a set of mediums, and Richie out on another set of mediums. So if they're careful, with 29 and a bit minutes in, I think Richie's probably going to be planning on another stop because he didn't take a full tank of fuel. So if he'd taken a full tank of fuel, he possibly could have got to the end without stopping again. Dan, I think it's going to be tyre wear that's going to be Dan's issue, if anything, on the mediums. But again, if he looks after the tyres, that may be his only stop of the race. Matt there on what looked to be a fairly new set of medium tyres. So, and again, 3/4 of a tank of fuel. So Matt will probably need to stop again. Fee just making way. Pickles running 7. So what? Yeah. So Pickles running 7. Mike running 8th and doing a bit of rally crossing. Luckily, it's 4-wheel drive, so it doesn't affect the horse too much. Zoe's dropped back to 9th. Oh, nearly lost it. Pulling over, letting Manos go through. So Captain's Low running 10th in his rather attractive looking Toyota TS030. Just the length of the back straight there behind Zoe. Just see Zoe disappearing around the right hander at the top of the picture, which is where Captain's Low is now. So that might be one keep an eye on. Simmer there running 11th. Fair old distance unfortunately behind Captain's Low. AK running 12. So he's Simo's got past him and pulling away. Fee in 13th, keeps plugging away, keeps going. And Fee does all our pictures on our Facebook page. So if you have a look on Facebook and have a look for Goodwin E-Racing Series, any pictures that are on there are likely to have been done by Fee, and she does a really good job of doing photos every week. So thanks Fee for doing that, really do appreciate that. Sean running 14th. So Sean's on lap 16, Fee's on 18, so Sean's a couple of laps behind. That's when he stopped to swap over from his wheel back to his pad. So he might catch Fee towards the end of the race, but we will see. We've got 28 minutes left or so. So Manos reeling off yet another lap, and we can see there on lap 19 that Manos thus far set the fastest lap of the race, a 1:31.115. See, George is running second, and his fastest a 1:31.780. So Manos there a good 0.6 of a second quicker than George's fastest lap. So Manos was really in a class of his own during this race. Says fastest lap 1:32.317. So 1.2 seconds off of what Manos had achieved, but Manos is on the soft tyre where it says he's on the medium, so there'll be an offset for that. So you can see the difference in tyre. They're in the same car. Richie running fourth, so the top four now are all in Toyotas. Dan in fifth, a little way now behind Richie, who's running in fourth. Matt running in sixth, again in another Toyota. So Manos has just come into the pits now on his soft tyre. So what he's obviously taken a longish stint on the medium, short stint on the soft, and I would guess now with 25 minutes to go that he will probably go back to a set of mediums for the rest of the race. So George has just taken the lead, but George is also running on soft tyres, so my guess that George will potentially do the same and pit within the next couple of laps, switch to a set of mediums, full tank of fuel, and go to the end of the race. See what Sez is doing. He's on mediums, just over half a tank of fuel, so I think Sez may well need to stop again. Maybe not for tyres, but certainly for fuel. Richie running in fourth, not too far off of Sez. I think Richie's probably going to have to stop again. Dan 3/4 of a tank of fuel on medium tyres, but we know the Porsche seems to be a little bit harder on tyres than the Toyota and a bit heavier on fuel, so I suspect Dan will probably need at least a splash and dash towards the end of the race, but I guess it will depend on track position and how far in front he is. He may just decide not to pit and just back off and just try to get to the end of the race. Matt there running in sixth. Pickles in seventh in his Porsche, so he's probably not too far off another pit stop. Those front tyres are starting to wear again, so this will be coming up to Pickles' second pit stop. Zoe's got herself back up to eighth. Oh, there looks like there's a battle coming on here. So we've got Zoe in eighth and Captain Slow just going down the inside there, just taking eighth place away from Zoe. Whilst all that's going on, we've got George just in front, Manos just behind, so there's a battle starting to loom for first and second, but Manos has made 2 pit stops and George has only made the 1 so far, I believe. Let's have a look. Let's go back to the top. Yeah, so George is still running on the softs, where Manos is back out on a fresh set of mediums. So Manos is again a pit stop ahead of George. So Manos is absolutely dominating this race. It says they're running in thirds, so not too far off of Manos, but lower on fuel, so he's going to have to stop again sooner than Manos. There we go. George is in the pits now. Not quite a full tank of fuel. Suspect out on mediums. Yep, there we go. Out mediums. Comes out right alongside Dan. Dan just nipped past there into 4th position. So once George has got these tyres up to running temperature, I suspect he'll probably look for a way past Dan. That's not worked out in George's favour there, because he was the closest challenger to Manos. So AK moving out the way, letting Dan and George go. Riding on board with George at the moment. So this is a repeat of a battle from earlier on in the race. George picking up a lovely slipstream here from Dan. There we go. Dan trying to come back at him down the inside, but George just holding him off. George is covering the inside, making sure Dan can't sneak up the inside like he did last time. Oh, they can't get much closer without touching. Dan there having a really good look at the back of George's Toyota. So we're now back to Toyotas running 1, 2, 3 and 4. Dan 5th in the Porsche. Matt 6th in another Toyota. Pickle 7th in a Porsche, Captain Slow 8th in a Toyota, Zoe 9th in a Toyota, but the later spec version, the 050 instead of the 030. Mike in 10th, looks like he's just been lapped there by Matt running in 6th in a Porsche 919, but Mike is now on the medium tyre, so 20 minutes, to just under 20 minutes to go, so yeah, Mike possibly can get to the end of the race. We'll see from there. Simo running in 11th, just moving to one side to let the George and Dan battle past. Great driving again by Simo. AK in 12. Sophie there in 13th on lap 23. And Sean in 14th, having just jumped off the track on lap 22, so he's closing that gap down to Fee, but whether he's got enough time to actually catch Fee for 13th and 14th, we'll keep an eye on that. Just needs to be aware he's got that the Dan George Dan battle coming up. Oh, bit of a touch there with Dan, but no harm, no foul. Dan didn't go off, so that's all kind of good. Zoe there, Dan, Sean. There's a bit of a group of cars. Going on here. 4 or 5 cars together there, all in different positions, all trying to run their own race. So we've got George in 4, Dan 5, Zoe 9, Sean there in 14th, and I think Simo was creeping up behind. So we've got yellow flags here, somebody's got off. See if we can see who it is. Oh, it's Captain Slow, so I think Zap put Zoe right back on Captain Slow's tail. So Zoe now back up into 8th place with Captain Slow right behind her. You see the differences between the two Toyotas now. So Captain Slow now just jumped ahead of Zoe. Zoe's right on Captain Slow's gearbox. So these two are having a really good scrap by looks of things. A good battle. They're just going through that tight right-hand hairpin. See where Mike is in relation to them. So Mike's not even coming onto the start. So they've got quite a significant lead over Mike. So no danger of anyone creeping up behind them while these two are having a battle. Let's just jump on. We'll do it in just a moment as Zoe comes across the start finish line. We'll jump on board for a lap of Autopolis with Zoe. So just coming through the S's and the twisty stuff towards the end of the lap now. So just coming on to the start finish straight. So let's jump on board with Zoe in the Toyota TS050 as we go across the start finish line to complete that particular lap in a 1:38.419 through T1, through a little kink up towards what I would say is probably T turn 2. Then double left-hander here coming up, and then a nice tight right-hander. Through a long lazy right, and then a longish left. So Autopolis is a fairly tight circuit. No, not really straight as such for these GR1 LMP1 cars to stretch their legs. Tight left-hand hairpin now, down the back straight, which is pretty quick. Probably just touch 150 mile an hour just before this right-hander. Now through the wiggly bit towards the end of the lap, set to 3, which is a whole series of lefts, rights, then double right-hander here. This one's uphill slightly. Then double left-hander, and then before the long final right-hander, and then the left-hand kink back onto the start-finish straight. So that's a lap of Autopolis on board with Zoe in the Toyota TS050, and we've done a 1:39.2 on that particular lap. So we are on board with Captain Slow. See the differences on board from the two Toyotas. So this is the 050 and this is the 030. So a bit of a difference. And then we've got Pickles in the Porsche, which again is a very different animal from either of the two versions of the Toyota. It's got twin hybrid system on. They ran a twin hybrid system on this Porsche, so it recovered energy under braking, and it also recovered energy from the exhaust gases from the turbocharger. So it had a very clever energy recovery system on this Porsche. Just pulling to one side there, just to let, by looks of things, George and Richie go through who are battling. Let's go and have a look at that then. So yeah, there we are. George has now caught Richie. So past Dan, caught Richie. So we've got these two having a battle, both in Toyotas, both on medium tyres. Richie's tyres are slightly more worn than George. Here we go. George is going to try and slide up the inside here. There we go. Nice and easy pass. No fighting. Nice and easy. George up to third. Richie to fourth. So we will now see if George can close down on Says in second. Let's have a look and see what the gap is. So George just going through the left-hander, and Says is at the right-hander at the end of the back straight. So they've got a fair old distance to make up. Manuel's coming up here to lap Matt. There we go, down the inside. No problems at all. So Says is probably not going to be far off the stop. There's about 10 minutes to go. Manuels will probably be able to make it to the finish on the tyre and fuel that he's got. Says is going to have to stop. So this may well drop Says back into the clutches of the George and Richie battle. So Says is between turns 1 and 2, and George and Richie are just going over the start finish lines. It's going to drop Says back behind them, I would have thought. Dan running in fifth, not that far off of George and Richie. So when Says makes his stop, depending on how much fuel he needs, he's probably going to come out. These four are going to come out pretty close to one another, I would have thought. Matt running in 6. Pickles in 7. Yeah, looks a safe 7th. And Zoe and Captain Slow are still continuing this battle. Zoe has now got back ahead of Captain Slow. So this has been ongoing now for a good few laps, these two. So at the moment, closest battle on the track, I would say, in terms of position. But we will keep our eyes on when when he goes in and makes his pit stop, and see where that brings him out in potentially amongst the George, Richie, Dan battle. Ooh, Captain Slow trying to chuck one up the inside there, but it was a right-hander next, so he would have been on the outside. So they're coming up towards the end of the lap. So 7 minutes left. So we'll see who's got the better tyres. Captain Slow's got the better tyres, and he's slightly better off on fuel as well. Although Zoe may be in front, in terms of tyres and fuel, it's advantage Captain Slow. Is he going to have a look down the inside at turn 1? Nice clean pass there. And runs wide and spins, and Zoe goes back up into 8th position. Bit unfortunate there for Captain Slow. So just a little too much speed into the corner, ran wide a little bit, left-hand tyres on the dirt, put the power down and lost the back. But fortunately, far enough in front of Mike to retain 9th position. So let's go back and see how Says is doing. So Says had a spin. He's got damage on the car here. Let's have a look. What's happened? Let's have a look. So no damage there. It's coming round final corner. Oh, he's got the pit entry all wrong and spun going into the pit lane. And the game's put him back out on track. So fortunately, hopefully he's got enough fuel to get round a lap. Oh, that's really going to hurt Says big time. That's definitely going to let George, Richie, and probably Dan in front of him. So Says he's going through turn 1. George on the start-finish rate. Richie on the start-finish rate. Dan on the start-finish rate. So yeah, it's going to drop Says back down into 5th. So way ahead of Matt in 6th, who's not far off of being lapped by the top 5 there. Pickles running 7. Zoe in 8th. So Matt and Pickles are fairly close, but they've got a reasonable lead over Zoe in 8th. Captain Slow in 9. Will Captain Slow be able to manage to catch Zoe? There's only 5 minutes left of the race, so 3 laps at best. So we will have to see. So that spin cost Captain Slow 13 seconds on that lap. Mike running 10th. Yeah, probably half a lap or so behind Captain Slow. Simo in 11th. AK in 12th. So this is a fight then now between Simo and AK, both on to lap 33. And just as we say that, Says has just made his pit stop, so let's see what he does and see where this brings out. So not going to have a huge amount of time, unfortunately, to be able to make up any ground here, but you never know. If the other guys may need to make a stop, then that may bring Says back into this. So out on the soft tyres, low fuel load, couple of laps to go, so we should see a couple of blinding laps here from Says. So it's coming out right in the middle of, I think it's Pickles and Mike. So there's a lap between the two of them, so hopefully Pickles will move out of the way and let Says go. In fact, yep, there we go, it's gone through. So Says is 4th. Oh, he's come out in front of Dan. So Dan must have had issues as well, because I was expecting Dan to jump ahead of Says when he made that stop. So Says is back out in 4th. Richie 3rd. George 2nd. And Manos leading quite comfortably. So Manos just coming across the line to complete lap 36, whilst George is just coming through the wiggly bits, so double left under the bridge, so quite a lead for Manos. George and Richie are still fairly close together. Says just coming through the left hander now, and then the right. So Says is obviously going to close down on Richie because he's on the soft tyre, where Richie's on medium. Says he's on a brand new set of soft. So 57. There's 2 laps left. So will he be able to catch Richie and snatch that 3rd place? We'll keep our eye on that. Dan running 5th. Matt in 6th. Pickle 7. Zoe 8th. Captain Slow 9th. So Captain Slow is closing down on Zoe. but is there enough time? 2 minutes left, so 2 laps left for Captain Slow, and you can just see Zoe just coming up to turn 1. So that gap's coming down. Mike there in 10th, Simo 11th with AK behind him in 12th, Fee in 13th, and Sean running 14th. So let's go and have a look at this. So Says is really closing Richie down here. So we could have a last lap battle here between Richie and Says. In fact, Says has just taken the fastest lap of the race by a second from Manos and done a 1:30.131. So the blue touch paper is well and truly lit for Says. So he's right on Richie, and they're coming up to lap Matt. So hopefully Matt will move out the way and let them go. So Says he's right on that gearbox. Yep, Matt's moved out the way, let them go. So they're having a tremendous wheel. Says, get rid. We're going to have to watch this. We want to watch. Says he's all over the back of Richie. Will it be a lunge down into the left? No. Follows him through that tight left-hander. Just quickly go back up to the top. Manos is just crossing the line and starts another lap. So let's get back to this battle between Says and Richie. George is quite comfortable in second. So the 1 hour's up now. So as they cross the line, they'll be finishing the race. So Says, there we go. Is he chucked it up the inside? Yes, he has. And he's managed to take Richie. So George has just finished in second. Says just picked Richie on the last lap for third. Richie in fourth. Matt's just crossed the line in sixth. So Dan will be next to cross the line. He's on his final lap. So Matt in sixth. Pickles 7. The other battle to keep an eye on was Zoe to Captain Slow, and they are close. Will Zoe be able to hang on there in the final sector now? Captain Slow was really significant, and Zoe's tyres are really badly worn. So going around the final, right, left. Oh, it's going to be close. Captain Slow, will Zoe pip it? Yes, but not by much. A really close one there. So Captain Slow really closed the gap down. So the only person left to finish the race is Manos, who's got his lap of honour, and he just comes across the line now to win. So we have Manos 1, George 2, Says 3, Richie 4, Dan 5, Matt 6, Pickles 7, Zoe 8, Captain Slow 9. Then Mike, Simo, AK, Fee, and Sean. So thanks for watching, and we will see you next time. Cheers now.